nothing bad to us. We are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route to do. We the people are free. And I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited.
Oh, look out. Left-me picture up there. G'day, folks. Hit that button. Look at that. I magnificently appear. Well, I don't know that I magnificently appear. I miraculously appear. I'm not very magnificent in any way, shape, or form. I'm a bit excited, though, because for a Friday, I've had a discovery. And that has nothing to do with anything at your end of things, but a lot to do with mine. I can now detach your chat from the window that I have to work in here. To put things out, which ordinarily means that I can't view all the upcoming bits and pieces that I want to show you at the same time as you're chatting. That changes as of today. Rather excited. So I can glance up here. If you see me glancing up, I'm looking at your chat. So Andrew was first in the house, followed by the lovely Sandy today. I hope you're doing well. Don't forget, folks, you can get as many tickets as you like in our last lottery for $750. It's only $2 a ticket, and we share the profits of that with the Donkey Sanctuary, and we look forward to being able to provide half a bale of hay and a bit of a nose wipe for a donkey in the near future. But thank you to those folks who've already participated and have bought up. Some people have spent quite a few dollars, I think, picking up tickets, and good luck to you lot. We still have around 250 to go, I want to say. A little bit less maybe than 250, or might be just a fraction more. I can't quite remember. But we will have the Waving Wonder in the very near future, who I'm sure will bring us up to speed with all of that. The lovely Aussie Sue is in the house, and you know what she tells us to do every time. Big thumbs up if you can, folks, and don't forget to check whether or not you are subscribed still, as YouTube has a way of turning you off. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. We could really use it. And hang around to the end. That will try and make it interesting. It is a Friday night. Anything is possible. There's one or two weird things I'm going to show you tonight. Cunning Linguist is in the house, or at least was when I set the room up. May not be back in just yet. The lovely Jenny, Maria is in the house too. Ian has joined us. A must to go to ANZAC Day tomorrow morning. Yes, I did have the flyover times for Queensland. There are a variety of aircraft doing flybys at ceremonies starting, I think, from 7 a.m. tomorrow morning in Dalby, where one of the Spartans that they're about to retire shortly is going to be flying there. I think that Spartan is doing Dalby, Toowoomba, Crow's Nest, a couple of other places. Of course, there is a Hornet, an F-18 Hornet flying around. It will be doing most of the Brisbane region and parts between, I think, the Gold and Sunshine Coasts, Pimpama, Ormo, Cleveland, across the bay, Redcliffe. They're going to go and do Moreton Island as well. So keep an eye out for them tomorrow morning. These are all going to be happening at various different times throughout the morning. As I say, from about 7:30 onwards. 8:30 or so, you'll probably see a fast jet around Brisbane, around the coastal fringes, if you are looking, and around an hour or an hour thereabouts, one of those F-18s, maybe, well, more than one of them, quite possibly, is going to do most of the coastal run all the way up to Fraser Island, Hervey Bay, Maryborough, that sort of area, before looping back again. So it's a training exercise for them, but we thank them for their service. It is a great day, and we will talk more about ANZAC Day in the very near future. But first, I better bring the Waving Wonder in because, well, we've got him awake right now, but we never know for how long he stays that way. How are you, buddy?
Sorry.
Very good. Very good. Look out. You're wide awake and not just doing gags, mate. You're doing sight gags. That's a big lift. Very good. Very good.
On the occasion, I can occasionally pull something out of my head. So, yeah. All right. So
You've put the flag up in
managed
the
to
front
get-
yard, so I gather you're going out in the morning to salute that.
Yep, you bet. Go down. I might
Is
go
there
down
a-
to the memorial just down our main street. So go and have a look there and put my support behind those that fought for our freedoms, which we are losing every single day. But
My
yes,
word, we are.
so we'll be doing that.
My word, we are. There's
Cracked up.
been a bit of a kerfuffle in Melbourne, of all places. Shock, horror, gasp. Some nightclubs have decided to take advantage of ANZAC Day and have thrown out this poster, an ANZAC Day special event at their nightclub in Little Burke Street. I think it's called Club W, this one. Now, what you might notice there is on the poster, there isn't one Aussie amongst them. And what I'm going to suggest to you folks is this is a great win for university marketing degrees and a great loss at the same time, because those holding those marketing degrees have no idea what country they're living in or what ANZAC Day actually means. Quite seriously.
I don't know. I think the lady on the left may be Australian. The blonde.
Well, I tell you what, she wasn't Australian enough because they changed it. It's now gone to holiday weekend.
Okay.
And
really?
this club predominantly caters to Asians. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Go for it. If that's your market, go for it. I've been into enough very bad karaoke clubs on the Gold Coast to know that the Japanese really, really love their karaoke, and I haven't met one yet that can sing. But that's just a selective thing. Maybe I've got flat ears. I hear incorrectly. That could be my problem. It's just been my experience. When I go to a Japanese karaoke club, I hear badly. They don't sing badly. I just hear badly. That's how it works. So anyway, the club seems to have had a change of heart and are now having a holiday rather than an ANZAC Day kind of thing. One of the other clubs said, listen, if it's okay for the AFL to have a football game, and that would be the huge historical, and well, it's historical for 30-odd years, I suppose. It started in the mid-90s from memory, Collingwood at Essendon at the MCG on ANZAC Day. And that happens every ANZAC Day, regardless of what day ANZAC Day falls on. So Collingwood and Essendon at the G, big day. They sell a lot of beer at the G.
Well, there's
and one of the nightclubs are saying, the thing is, pubs and clubs aren't meant to sell beer between, I think it's midnight and midday, or it might be 3 a.m. and midday on ANZAC Day.
That's right. That was a law, wasn't it, that was brought in?
Yeah. So the clubs will stop selling. I don't know if it's at midnight or not, but it used to be at midnight, but now I think it's 3 a.m. And no more alcohol then until after midday. And at midday, you have to serve a meal if you're going to be serving alcohol. But after that, it's okay. The RSLs get away with it because they open for breakfast and they put on a gunfire breakfast, or a gun barrel, what they call it, a gun barrel breakfast. Where Pete from Pinaroo tells me that he was responsible for the cooking of the gun barrel breakfast one morning. 42 kilos of bacon he cooked. That's a big day. That's a big day on the tongs. But thank you for your service and everybody who served. If you can get along to a breakfast tomorrow, that'd be great. And spend some time in an RSL with the Diggers. It is a day where we like to buy them a beer if you have that opportunity. If you didn't serve, but you would like to show your thanks, then go around. Try not for you to have a beer in every club unless you've got a driver, but go around, check out the oldest members in the club, if you like. Check that they served before you start throwing beer at them. And then buy them a drink, sit down, pat them on the back, shake their hand, thank them for their service. It's not a hard thing to do, and it means so little to those who haven't served, and it means so much to those that have. So unless you have a real understanding, most people say, oh, yeah, thank you for your service, and just let it drift on. But there are many of us, thankfully, I think, over the last couple of decades, awareness has grown a lot deeper in our younger society. And I think there is a deep level of respect for our veterans. Unfortunately, that is being browbeaten out of us and our veterans, the proud veterans that we have, through the actions of not just the Australian government, but governments around the world who are now attacking their fighting men and women and making it so that essentially military service is not a career now. Military service will become something you're conscripted into doing.
Well,
Military
who'd want
service
to
is
go
going to
there?
become... Well, you wouldn't, would you? Would you recommend it for a trade for your kids now? Oh, get into the
Nope.
military service. Do 20 years. Get out when you're 38, before you're 40, on a 20-year pension. And, yeah, great career. Trade, go off and do what you like. Wonderful career. Absolutely wonderful career. Sure, until 20 years down the track, some pencil-pushing numbnut lawyer who's never been in a conflict zone in his life, the biggest fight he had was figuring out which pen he was going to use in which exam, is all of a sudden chasing you for war crimes. You've got television cameras and assholes who call themselves journalists like Nick McKenzie writing books and sticking cameras in your face and telling lies about you. Or if not lies, half-truths. Lies by obscurity, if you like. Lies by abstention, because they leave out the qualifying bits of pieces of information that you might find would change the pattern going to your mind about what they're trying to tell you about things like Ben Roberts-Smith. But it's not just Ben Roberts-Smith. And tomorrow is a day where I want everybody not just to think of Ben Roberts-Smith, although, yes, support him. But Ollie Schultz is in jail at the moment. He also needs our support. There are others. McBride, a whistleblower who got thrown in jail for whistleblowing. It gets weirder and weirder. Weirder and weirder. But we'll play something, and look, unless you think it's a bit too silly to play, but that thing I played you before we came on the air, we might play that at the end of the show.
Yeah, that's a definite.
And
that's a definite. And just for interest's sakes, South Australia was one of the first ones to bring in the law for no beer until midday or 1 o'clock, depending on which state you are in. And they brought it in 1977. So, in other words, they've been basically starting to have shots at the ANZACs and the ANZAC edition since 1977. Isn't that interesting? That's just my opinion, of course. I could be totally wrong. It might have nothing to do with the ANZAC.
Well, no. See, I think you'll find that the RSLs were allowed to open. They were the only places you could get a drink.
Providing they have a meal, yes, at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. No, you can get there at 6 o'clock in the morning. I know, I've been there. Used to drive the bus on Anzac Day with the RSL club for it. So certainly in Queensland, you can get a beer after the dawn service, not before it. Although there are plenty of people. I've turned up at the dawn service at the Shrine in Melbourne on more than one occasion, and there've been people capping beers as they're walking up to their place beside the fire. So there are certainly that element. But nobody turns up blind drunk and carries on or does anything. It's all very, very respectful.
Of course it would be.
But certainly the walk over to the Victoria Barracks afterwards for the gun barrel breakfast there is wonderful. That's a huge breakfast. Thousands of people turn up to that. And of course, you may not be able to do that for much longer because the Labor government want to sell off the Victoria Barracks in the heart of Melbourne. Probably the most, or at least one of the most significantly historic military buildings in this nation. And they just want to sell it all off because it'll get them some money, because they've got no money. Why haven't they got money? Well, my guess, they could have plenty of money. How would they get that money?
Well, they could probably do it by taxing the companies that are busily taking all our resources for nothing.
Be
That'd
pretty
one
good if
way.
they'd done that.
Yeah.
What was
Might
the
have a
figures we saw
$3
the other day?
trillion thing. Sorry?
Yeah, well, if they started doing that taxing correctly our gas exports and charging, particularly Japan, who charges the people of Japan more for the gas that they get off Australia than we charge them to give them the gas.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then they on-sell it and make a profit.
Yeah.
So, but
Huge
it's not
profit.
a tax. It's not a tax, mate. We shouldn't do a tax, right?
No,
it should be
no,
an
I think it's a
excise.
royalty. It's a
Yeah,
royalty.
a royalty, an excise of some format, not a tax. They have to pay it. They can't write it off against anything else. So, whereas a tax, they can write off against something else. So,
Speaking of taxes being written off against other things, have you caught the news of the Victorian Treasurer, I think it is, who lives in Broadmeadows, which is 89 kilometres, I think was the reported distance from the CBD of Melbourne. And there are some pretty good freeways that head out that way to Broady. So, not a long distance, but 89 kilometres. Now, there is a loophole somewhere there that suggests that parliamentarians can maintain a second home in Melbourne and have the taxpayers fund that for them. She has done that, bought herself something in Collingwood, where she lives while Parliament's working, and we've paid for it. Or should I say the Victorian taxpayers have paid for it. Now,
she gets
they're using
overnight. She gets payments for each night that she's staying there.
Well, there's also a tax that's levied on housing in Victoria. They're not paying. The politicians aren't paying that. The people are paying that for the politicians. It's rude, very, very rude. And there'll be more coming out about it over the weekend. I think it's only just popped up today, or at least I've only seen a little bit about it today. And that is another reason why, particularly in Victoria, people should take Greenie's advice. Now, I said last night, Greenie came up with this great idea. He texted it through to me. Today, he has taken action and plastered, I don't know if it's his car or somebody else's, ANZAC Day. Turn your back on the politicians because they have turned their backs on you.
Yep.
I think that is an ideal thing to do, and welcome to country. If you've got a welcome to country at your ceremony, at your dawn ceremony, turn your back on it. It's just somebody being paid to turn up early and mutter some words they get paid to mutter, and doesn't really hold any great strength anymore, sadly. And there are so many First Nations people who are admitting that, who are ashamed of the people who are going and doing these events and being paid for it. It's just
there never was. It's a recent addition. It's not something from historical times with the Aboriginals. So
Ernie Dingo came up with it.
Yeah, so I heard.
Yeah,
but
in 1970. I want to say it was 1976 or 77. It was after the New Zealanders came to Australia and started doing the haka when they were playing rugby against us, right? And the haka, for anybody, even me, I'm probably not the most athletic person, although you'll see I've been getting fit lately. I'm not the most athletic person, but watching the New Zealand tea leaves, or whatever they call themselves, do the haka, it puts goosebumps on your skin, raises the hackles. So Australia wanted something just as good, and Ernie Dingo came up with the welcome to country. Wow, we could have done better, I'd have thought.
Well,
there's a few things I'd like to adopt from New Zealand.
Very famous politician that we've all known for 30 years, and her party, which is having absolute 30 years overnight success, has said everybody in Australia is equal. So,
of course they're equal.
Welcome
of course they're equal. Equal to who? Yeah, good question. Speaking of who, what the? Here's
How did
the
we
head.
get from who to what the? Are we calling him what the who now?
I don't know how we did that jump. I apologize. Maybe it was just the hat. I caught my eye and I felt I had to push on the button. I'm not quite sure where that came from now that you've drawn my attention to it. At any rate, it'll be a quick update. Surgery's gone well. This
Excellent.
morning when I spoke to him, at least, he hadn't had much of a night's sleep. The surgery was done under local anaesthetic. I think he said as much in the show last night, and he may or may not be in the chat. I haven't. Oh, he is.
He is.
So I hope he gets and has had a good sleep today. I went to ring him a couple of times today and thought, I'll let him sleep. Yeah, so the foot was giving him a bit of stick last night, tingling a bit. But apparently those, face mask wearing strangers are very happy with the way it's worked out so far. And it's been all of 24 hours or so. So tomorrow, fingers crossed, we'll get better results. He's not going to see too many doctors. I don't know how many of them work over the weekend, but I suspect about half. And we'll probably get another update from the surgical team, at least on Monday, after they've had another look at him. So fingers crossed that by Thursday or Friday morning at the latest next week, he will be out of hospital and we will be able to get him on his way towards the cruise ship, leaving the following Monday. I've just rung the cruise company. Somebody told me that it was going to be 14 days. We should get a packet or a package or something to tell us about the boat and the cruise. And there's an app or something that we're meant to get and all that sort of stuff. Maybe I'm counting my days wrong, but I think we're inside 14 days now. And I haven't received anything from anyone at the cruise company. So if any of you guys who are coming have received something, please let me know. And I'm going to maybe have to go to a travel agent tomorrow because our cruise manager, Annette, pissed off and works for somebody else. Doesn't answer the phone anymore. I did get a phone call back from some bloke who sounded like he was 10 meters away from the phone and having a great time in the Caribbean, saying, "Oh, man, you need to speak to who? Yeah, well, So I don't know. Some of the agents that are dealing with these cruise inquiries at the moment should be looking at re-employing Australians, I think, because your international agents aren't doing the job for you. I got to tell you, they are letting the team down. But I'll make sure I tell somebody on the boat. Got to complain about something. Wouldn't be a good Aussie trip without it, would it?
No, well, this is right. And Aussie Sue's just putting in a piece there that I think is quite true because there were quite a few Aboriginal people that lost their lives during the wars too. So this is a day to respect them all.
My word. Now, we're all very confused and upset about what's going on in the Suez Canal. Apparently, the less than 20% of the world's oil, although you'll see in mainstream media reports it's now creeping up to over 25% of the world's oil now is affected. But we don't know how that can be because it's only ever been 20%, less than 20% in all honesty, because there is some large amounts of oil not going through the Gulf and escaping out through the Red Sea at the moment, through a pipeline that the Saudis built very quietly. So, anyway, there is this drama going on the Suez Canal. 1 minute it's open, the next minute it's closed. Donald Trump says, look, the politicians in Iran are saying the right things. We're going to extend the ceasefire. And then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of little ships, little boats, speedboats come out and they attack tankers and take them over. Now, this happened. You would have seen the pictures. We talked about it the other night. This happened very recently to a couple of Indian tankers. And you are not going to believe what happened. It turns out that the Indian shipping company that was asked by the Iranians to pay the $2 million toll in US digital tokens, USDT, did pay that toll in USDT and received a go-through, an allowance to go through the Straits and into the Gulf. This was the same boat that very shortly afterwards was attacked by the Iranian gunboats, and we saw these pictures of men rushing on board and all that. It turns out that there was no $2 million toll paid to the Iranians at all. The Indian ship owners had paid the 2 million USDT to some Indian scammers. How good is that? So
Gotta give
the
it to the
Indians on the-
Indians. They're in it and into everything, I tell you.
Yeah. So there's no wonder that, because last night I found it quite strange that they'd basically opened up the side of the ship, put out the ship's boarding underway gangway, like it's a metal set of stairs that they've got to roll out from inside the boat. And they've basically ushered the Iranian Navy, whoever they are, on board thinking, well, we've paid the toll. We've paid the toll. And they just paid it to a bunch of Indian scammers. I think it is magnificent. Just magnificent. Happens to the best kind of people. But it leads to the question of how do we open up the Straits of Hormuz? And I think I've got half a solution here. It might only be half a solution. I think it's probably a little bit more than half, but it may not be a whole solution just yet. So, how would it be if we put Apache helicopters on cargo ships, or we put the Black Hawks with their crews and gunships and guns hanging off the side on cargo ships as they go through the straits and go where they are? And the problem that they have at the moment is that the Yank boats that would be able to pick up all these little boats, and they're very tiny, are too far away to do anything by the time they actually pick them up. Whereas the ships themselves, the tankers and the cargo carriers that are going through there, their radars pick up these little boats almost immediately because they're designed to pick up stuff that's close into them. Now, it would make life a lot easier if the helicopter crew was sitting on the cargo deck and gets notified from the bridge, oh, yeah, look, we've got 5 little ships coming out from this part of Iran at us, and they're tear-assing at us at 60 knots. It's a lot easier to fire up your helicopter in 3 minutes and be hovering above that ship as those boats come to you, rather than you having to fly off your frigate at, best possible speed before you get to wherever the action's happening. And I would think that those ships, those little speedboats, would have a great deal of second thoughts if they saw one of those Apache attack helicopters coming off the deck and turn around and look at them with the chin-mounted turret gun, able to spit 4,000 rounds a minute and cut their little boats in half in a blink of an eye, looking at them.
Well, the other point is if they're launching all these boats from wherever they're launching them, those boats have got to go back to that same spot. So how long do you think they're going to be before they've actually determined where they're launching from? And how long before they won't be able to, because all of a sudden where they launch from is going to be caved in with a bloody great missile?
Well, true. Very true.
That's how I'd be playing it.
I'm also concerned as to how there can be hundreds of mines in the Gulf when the Americans have been watching the Gulf so intently that anything moving and laying mines would have been spotted. So did they let them lay hundreds of mines? They didn't have enough time between the declaration of the war and the war actually starting and all that sort of shit to actually lay the mines, from when they closed the straits and said, oh, we might lay mines, to when the shooting started and they supposedly did lay mines. Why is it going to take 6 months of mine clearing to open up the straits? It doesn't make sense.
You've got to remember,
I like the person who said I could be sec deaf with this range of thinking. Silver Fox, you're a good man. Commander
Probably
of
got to
Defence
remember
Forces.
that the type of mines that they're using now are not the same as what we would have expected from the old World War II days with the great metal things with the spikes all over it. These will be magnet-sensitive mines that will attract to a metal hull. They don't need to be specifically huge, and there's a lot of explosive power in C4, etc. To take a hole out on a ship, it wouldn't take long.
No, it wouldn't. And I'm
dropped off
wondering,
by the books, by the little boats, they drop them off.
I'm wondering if Iran, as it has a penchant for building large structures underground, if it hasn't also managed to build something of a large underwater structure somewhere in the Gulf that they can keep quite secret and operate quite secretly out of, particularly from a mine laying perspective. I mean, if you had some way of dragging these things out and putting them in a little submarine, and like you say, they're magnetized, do they just sit on the bottom and then just get turned on one day and become magnetic that day, or are they always magnetized and there's a chain on them and holds them back until such time as the bad Ayatollah says, let them go and we'll blow all the ships up? There is video of what happens to one of those little boats if they are carrying one of those mines, or it's more likely this was some kind of a limpet mine maybe that was on board one of these boats that came out from the Houthi coast, and they were attacking a carrier, a bulk carrier, and on that bulk carrier there were some security who started firing on the boat before it got close, and they might have fired, I don't know, 10 to a dozen shots before one of them hit something that went very big boom inside the boat and left nothing but a smoking water line behind. So, the mines that they can carry are very, very significant. But if they blew up a boat in the Gulf, the oil slick would close the Gulf. It would stop Iran from exporting anything either.
Yeah. Well, as a couple of people have said, I missed it now, I took it, Ian specified, maybe it's just they're saying that to help push the US oil sales, mine propaganda, that they're not saying there's definitely mines there. And it's true, could well be a furphy.
Well, I have no doubt that oil is behind it, and how that oil is priced and sold, it plays a big role. At the moment, you can buy oil quite happily using Chinese yuan, but you won't be able to buy it using US dollars. So that's why America all of a sudden is saying, oh, we've got plenty of oil, and we're now the largest producer in the world, thanks to Venezuela coming on board. And Venezuela have unfathomable resources when it comes to oil. So that breaks the petrodollar cartel, even though that petrodollar cartel benefits America more than anybody else. But what it does establish America as doing is still being able to be the leader when it comes to oil sales, crude sales, and by the looks of it now, further production, until the world can get a little more refineries in their world. And speaking of refineries in Australia,
oh, I've got something to say on that.
All right, well, you might want to hear this. I found out today that a former refinery in Western Australia called the Kwinana Refinery is still being used today as the storage area for West Australia fuels. So when the fuel boats come in, they use all the tanker farms down there, or the tank farms down there, to offload into. But the refinery itself has been switched off for some years and no longer works. The West Australian government, and probably the federal government at that, would have you believe that it would cost billions of dollars to refit and start up the Kwinana refinery again. I was reliably informed today by people who know about these things that the Kwinana oil refinery could be made to work again in as little as 1 week, because when they disabled the refinery, all they did was pull the fuses.
Yep.
So once they've put all the fuses back in, there would be some lines that would need to be checked, some pressure tests need to be done, but quite realistically, within a month, Australia could have another refinery up and running if the governments have the heart and will to do it. Now, I don't know who watches this show that's got a bit of sway. It's a question that needs to be asked of the politicians of the day. Alex Antic, I think, is a very clear-thinking man. He's obviously wavering a bit with his party at the moment. Mind you, anybody who's been following the Liberal Party is probably wavering. I'd like to know what One Nation say about this. One Nation have a lot of regional support in Western Australia. And I'm sure there are a lot of Western Australians who would like fuel security back again with your own refinery producing, if not all your fuel requirements, then the vast majority of them. And it can be made to run again in a very short time frame.
Unbelievable. The things they pull
But the
over
government-
us. The wall.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's like. Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to go back to what I was saying. I'm flitting around a bit, but I did some graphics for that thing about the Apaches on the boats. I was wondering whether or not they'd fit. So I had the machine do me some graphics up, and these are very, very interesting graphics, but I'll put them to one side. You can look at how big a average container is, how big a container ship is. Really, the only figures that you need to know are, will something that size fit on something that size? That size. And the answer to it is yes, if you put two containers side by side, it'll fit. But basically, the Apache needs 30 meters, all right? Needs a 30-meter area to land and take off. And I would have thought that could be made safe. Now, the only thing that I think we would have a bit of a problem with would be slippage on top of the containers. But that could be mitigated in a couple of ways by using a net. They use nets now for helicopters on board Navy boats when they're coming into land on wet and rainy and hoppy decks. And the skids get onto these ropes, and then those ropes can bind up and twist around and hold the helicopter. So there's those sorts of things that could be put down. But mind you, the helicopters wouldn't be there based for days and days and days at a time. And if the seas are big enough to rock a tanker around, they are too big to put a little speedboat out in.
True.
So
very true.
They're not going to be rocking and rolling and flashing around too much. So I reckon there would be ways of making a helipad, a temporary helipad on board any cargo vessel. And I'm thinking about oil tankers because they have a lot of open space on their deck. However, there is a lot of piping, a lot of stuff that maybe is not possible to land on. It looks flat, but I've been not on the deck of an oil carrier, but very close to one, and there's an awful lot of pipes and shit going in places. So I just don't know if it's possible on those. But you could certainly put one of them through with a container ship following in front or behind, and one helicopter could look after 3 or 4 ships in that area very, very easily as they go through the straits, offering shotgun protection, so to speak.
It would be a very interesting solution. The only thing you'd have to think about is that even though containers stack on each other, right, all their supports are on the corners. So having some weight direct center is likely to bow. I don't know how heavy an Apache is. So
let's have a look. I can't blow that up without losing my camera.
23,000 pounds, 10,433 kilos.
So
its max takeoff weight. That's its max takeoff weight. Sorry.
Okay.
That would include carrying passengers.
So you're right. It would be the weight bearing load limit on top of the container.
Yeah.
So maybe you might need something that drops into the top of that container that is just a steel deck, drops into those lugs, and that's where it lands.
Yep, that'd work. They
It
bind the
would
two
work.
containers together as well. So yeah.
Well, I think they already
All
do
right.
that in certain. I think they go into frames, from what I've seen. They sort of lock into these frames, but when one frame goes, it tends to pull a whole heap of them with it. AI, bloody great. Well, I asked it to do these pictures, bloody awesome stuff, and I did ask it, as you may have seen, to do tonight's thumbnail, as I get it to do thumbnails all the time. Now, when I put the thumbnail up on YouTube and whatnot, it gets cut down because the picture size is different or whatever. So tonight I had to choose to cut out the top of the picture or the bottom of the picture. Tonight I chose to cut out the top because it had a fairly obvious flaw in it. I thought I'd bring it up and show you. So it became the Freelio free for all rather than the Friday free for all, as you can see at the top. But then get a look at what it did to Vince.
Yeah, best I've looked in a long time. Take me back 20 years.
He's a pretty good bloke, hey?
Right. Once upon a time, I had hair like that. Once upon a time.
Look at that. And arms. And arms.
Oh, yeah, well, I can guarantee I did have the arms. I used to work in a timber mill, mate. I used to have the arms. I can guarantee that. So,
well, it got me thinking. I said, got me thinking. I said, what can you do for me? I've been working out a bit too. And this is what it came up with.
Oh, dear.
And for those of you wondering where the original came from, that'd be it. So I remember watching that story. That's a photo of Ben Roberts-Smith out of the 60 Minutes, the story they did on him, I guess, in 2013 or might have been 2012. I think he was still in the service at that stage. And he was walking through this pool with a 25-kilo weight over his head. And, he was walking through 6 foot of water and he's still chest deep in it. Absolute machine of a human being. But that's what he looked like back then. He has changed a little bit today. He's not quite as broad or as thick, I guess. But, he's 15, 17 years older there too. So I thought it was just an interesting thing.
I still wouldn't want to take him.
No, he could pull a nostril hair out of his nose and strangle you with it, for God's sake. I mean, or he's more likely to pull it out of your nose and strangle you with it.
Can you put that first photo back up of you with the new body? That one? Yeah. Okay. Just had to do this.
Very good. Very good. Very good. All right.
Now,
one thing
getting back to the oil, we're talking about oil and refineries. So there's some significant discussion going on right now about the oil that's been discovered in Queensland and getting together a new petroleum plant, and the government's going to talk about this and all that. You watch what happens with this. They are going to off-sell that plant to all the private investors, right? So that once again, the Australian people get screwed. Now, if we were smart, we would have a 50% stake in that petroleum plant and have the others shares going out to private investors. So it's we get the beauty of the private investors making money for the corporation because they want to make money, and therefore we make money because we know the government can't run shit. So if we went a 50-50 or a 51-49, that would be a brilliant idea. How much chance do you think we would actually get of that happening? Anybody want to hazard a guess in the chat? 10?
Billions.
15? 20%? Or are we down in the points of a percent chance that will happen? Which do you reckon? Will we have a stake in that new refinery? Or will we
I doubt it.
Give them money to build it?
Well, we've got no money to build it. to give them to build it. That's the
Oh,
thing.
yes, we have. We
Albanese's
could take out another loan. You know, it's only 1.63 trillion. What's the matter?
yeah, true that. Yeah. Well,
Right.
maybe
Generational
we could
debt.
help. We can design a T-shirt for them. Maybe they can, start selling some merch.
Yes, from our merch store at merch.vofhq.com.
That's it. The same
training
place where
people
you can
training.
get a ticket. Shameless plug.
You can,
Shameless
which is
plug.
bouncing across the bottom there with only 275 left to go.
Woohoo! And of course, we do have call it the pirate shirt, if you will. This one, they burnt our flag. At least we put theirs out. This is the One Eye design out of far north Queensland. And if you want, and I've already got one order for one of these. So if you want one of those shirts, you've got to email me, carl@vofhq.com. I will pass that on to Skipper Pete, who will pass it on to the young bloke in Ingham who came up, I think, with the drawing as well. All hand designed, that pure, like real artwork, right? Real artwork. So if you'd like one of those, drop us a line. I think the price for the shirts, and they're really high quality shirts, I think they're all up there, somewhere between $50 and $60 delivered, I think, from memory. So, yeah. But yeah, let me know, carl@vofhq, if you would like to get a hold of that. I have one other thing. I thought I'd show you that. Is the bloke attempting to quit smoking by locking his head in a cage and giving his wife the key?
And she ran away.
Yeah.
That wouldn't
There are
actually
people
work.
like
Theoretically, that would not work, because if he can put a drink bottle from a budgery thing through his mouth to make a drink, you can get a cigarette through it.
I would agree. And you don't have to hold it. There go the stains off your fingers. I mean, I think he's invented a new smoking tool.
Well, there you go. See? The mother of necessity, right? Or was it necessity,
Yes.
mother of invention? Sorry, get it right, Vince. Old brain not
Yes.
working quite right.
That's all right.
But
we understand
yeah.
old brains. They are a good thing. So your old brain has been taxed a bit this week. It's had a fair bit on. What are your plans? Yeah. What are your plans for the weekend?
Well, want to do tomorrow morning, obviously, with respect for our fallen comrades, right? For those who fought for us for freedom. Got to move a caravan back to here from my son's place, as my other son moves from one son's place to a friend's place. So that's that. Fix a computer for a customer. Speaking of which, yours is traveling to you right now, supposedly there on Wednesday.
Very exciting, because
right?
This one conniptionized 2 minutes before we went live tonight as well. I had to reboot it. So, well, that's exciting news. That's exciting news.
So that's on its way.
Outside
of that, I was thinking of doing something. I might as well ask you live and let everybody else in the comments have a say. I don't find a lot of time to do stuff on FBN, unfortunately, at the moment. But I was thinking of doing a little 1.5 minute segment or less of the question for the day, which might be every day I just put out a single little question. Hang on, I've got to pull up a thing here. And it's like today's question for thought. Did you know that the current ASIO powers totally go against the current laws for innocent until proven guilty and being charged? Do you know if that's right? And are you sure that that answer is right? Have a great day. Yeah, and that was just something I thought out of my head then. But obviously the questions would be much more things like, did you know there's never been a referendum to have the Constitution to become independent from the UK government in the Constitution. Things like that. And just do a question every day, just to stick out there as a short and on TikTok and whatever. What do you think of
I
that?
think it's a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
Right,
A
short and
great
sweet.
idea. And you can actually
And not-
program them to go up when you're asleep.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea too. Right? Yeah. So
When in doubt,
when in doubt, yeah, program them out. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. But there's a whole heap. There's so many that we can ask over the next 2 years to help make people think about what's going on. Rational thought, right? The conspiracy theories are no longer rational, are no longer just conspiracy nuts. They are the actual rational thinkers. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
More questions you put out for people to think, it opens doors. I couldn't
That's
agree
the idea.
more.
I'm not going to give
Joanne.
them an answer. They have to figure out if their answer that they know is correct or not. All right. So
Yeah, well, if it can send people off to do a little bit of research, then
if I
what
hit
you
on
don't
the
want is
subject,
what you don't want is self-confirming bias research. You want to be able to go and look
yeah,
to disprove
I
what
don't
you
know how to
naturally
get
see.
around that. I don't know how to get around that. That was my one thought. If they just go and Google, so maybe I need to be smart in the way I phrase the question so that it causes. Yeah, all right, Andy. You knows. It causes a balanced review to come back from the search engine. So I'll have to put each one through a search engine first. Google, because everybody uses Google. I'll put it through the search engine first and see what it throws up. Maybe that's the best way of doing it. See, it's never simple. You think it's simple. You just go, here's a great idea. Let's just do that. And then we start to put, oh, no, but we're going to take into that. We're going to take into that. And we're going to take into that. And then we're going to do this. And we're going to do that. And then an hour later, you're gone, for a 1 minute project, it's just taken an hour. Anyway, yeah. So someone's trying to ring me at the time of night. Bad luck.
And on that note, it's Joanne's quite wise. A good one to ask, who told you that info? Because I'm about to tell you something.
Oh, I like
and
that. Actually.
Don't believe me because I haven't done huge amounts of research into this. I just found it interesting and started reading it and have passed it on. But take it for what it is. But we'll talk about that very shortly. I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thank you for everything that you've done this week, waking up at the appropriate times and being there to, give the computer a bit of a clean up and all the great things that you do and keeping the servers running. So I appreciate you so much, mate. I really do. I don't know what I'd do without you. And I understand you have been feeling a bit off recently. So everything that you do is appreciated that little bit more for the fact that you're still doing it. So thank you.
Okay. The only thing, and I know you want to give me the wave, but out of much respect, we haven't promoted too much of our merch store and stuff tonight because although we do need the money, tomorrow is a very, very special day. And, with what the battles we are facing now, every single ANZAC that never made it back would be turning in their graves at what we have lost with our freedoms and our choices. And if we don't do something about it, I don't care whether you like voting or not, you've got to put somebody else in that's not Liberal, Labor or Green. So keep that in mind, all right? Otherwise, your kids will have nothing. Now I'm going to go. Bye.
See you, buddy. The Waving Wonder off for the weekend. And I'm going to head off too, but I'm going to leave you with something that I discovered today, folks. And I haven't had time to put video to this yet. So instead, what we're going to do is just put up a picture and I'm going to play some audio that I recorded for you. I was really only playing with this afternoon, thinking, oh, what can I do with it? Is there something I can do with it? So I recorded what I did with it, and this is what we've done to it to begin with. But should I play it? Will I play it? Yes, I will. It is the story of the last post. I don't know if you're aware that the last post had a story or where it came from. So you're about to find out. So with that, I'll put this little picture up. I'll hit play on another piece and I'll talk to you at the end of it. reportedly back from 1862 during the American Civil War, when Union Army Captain Robert Ellicott was with his men near Harrison's Landing in Virginia. The Confederate Army was on the other side of a narrow strip of land. During the night, Captain Ellicott heard the moans of a soldier who lay severely wounded on the field. Not knowing if it was a Union or Confederate soldier, the captain decided to risk his life and bring the stricken man back for medical attention. Crawling on his stomach through the gunfire, the captain reached the stricken soldier and began pulling him towards his encampment. When the captain finally reached his own lines, he discovered it was actually a Confederate soldier, but the soldier was dead. The captain lit a lantern and suddenly caught his breath and went numb with shock. In the dim light, he saw the face of the soldier. It was his own son. The boy had been studying music in the South when the war broke out. Without telling his father, the boy enlisted in the Confederate Army. The following morning, heartbroken, the father asked permission for his superiors to give his son a full military burial, despite his enemy status. This request was only partially granted. The captain had asked if he could have a group of army band members play a funeral dirge for his son at the funeral. The request was turned down since the soldier was a Confederate. However, out of respect for the father, they did say that he could have one musician. The captain chose a bugler. He asked the bugler to play a series of musical notes that he'd found on a piece of paper in the pocket of his dead son's uniform. This wish was granted. The haunting melody we now know as The Last Post, used at military funerals, was born. Like you, I feel chills when I hear The Last Post. But I have never known until now that there are words to it. Not only are there words, there's more than one verse. You can download the words at vofhq.com now. Enjoy your Friday night. Tomorrow, be respectful, lest we forget. Be safe on the roads.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!